Good scorching Sunday, June the 22nd, Kitchissippi. This is a video version of the 442nd Kitchissippi Weekly Ward newsletter. There's lots more information about all the topics that we'll discuss in the weekly email newsletter, to which you can subscribe at kitchissippiward.ca. I'm out here today on Carling Avenue, just next to the experimental farm, in anticipation of talking a bit about our transportation master plan that is coming up. But the headline item in my weekly email newsletter is that you are likely aware that Council recently approved on a pilot basis the removal of the prohibition against alcohol consumption in city parks. They've left it up to city councillors to determine which, if any, parks they'd like that pilot to proceed in. I solicited your input for the past couple of weeks for the pilot, which would begin July 1st, and after receiving dozens of notes, a sort of blanket support for removing all prohibitions, blanket opposition to removing any prohibitions, suggestions with respect to the parks that I had floated, I wanted to let folks know that I have determined to ask city staff to remove the prohibition on the consumption of alcohol just for private use at Champlain Park. That would run from July 1st until, I believe, October, the end of October. I have lots more information in the newsletter about why I've chosen Champlain Park. I expect that the pilot will demonstrate that we're not really encouraging more drinking, just removing the prohibition on the drinking that is already happening there. I do have the power to yank the pilot if things go sideways, but you can read more on my blog about the decision making that I went through on that one. There is also a note in the newsletter. They have begun consultation on the expansion of Armstrong Park. A while ago, I authorized or directed the use of cash in lieu of parkland funds to acquire the residential properties that were directly behind the existing Armstrong Park. That doubles the size of the park. Staff have a couple of concepts for how they might implement new parkland there online. I have a link to that in the newsletter. Another and last reminder with respect to the early budget consultation that Councillor Troster and I are going to host. That is going to be on Thursday, June the 26th from 7 until 9 p.m. at the Plant Recreation Centre right on the border between our two wards. We have a number of experts who will be talking about their perspective on the budget, and of course we get your questions and answers as well as suggestions, and city staff will do a thorough presentation. I have pop-up office hours that are coming up at La Roche Park. Those are going to be held on June the 24th. That's Tuesday from 11 until 2 a.m. until 2 p.m. I'm going to host those in La Roche Park under the gazebo. If it's raining, come look for me in the Keith Brown Community Building. Pop-ups are an opportunity to come by anytime during those hours and talk to me one-on-one about whatever is on your mind. It's not a consultation yet, but staff had earlier let us know that they were going to implement what is called a protected intersection at the corner of Byron and Churchill. The timing is uncertain, and it is related to the redevelopment of the Laundryland building that is going to be, I think, an 8-story tower going in there. But they are beginning to take a look at what that protected intersection might look like. They have information about that online. Take a look at the detailed functional design for the initial thoughts around what that would look like, and all that information is at the link that I've provided in my newsletter. You can also go to engage.ottawa.ca and just search for Byron Churchill Protected Intersection. In the community, there's a number of events coming up. The Westboro Beach Community Association is hosting its barbecue on June the 26th. I think I'm going to be able to pop by for that for a little bit before the budget consultation that we're holding. There's going to be a barbecue. They'll be selling meat and veggie burgers and hot dogs along with soft drinks. There will be treats, watermelon, face painting, bubbles, henna tattoos by Mumtaz, as always, for a small charge, and perhaps some impromptu sandcastle creations. Take a look at all of the information in the newsletter, and I provided a link. They'd love to hear if you're coming. The Hintonburg 5K and 1K is coming up. I won't belabor that. I've had it in the newsletter for several weeks now. It's going to be on July the 13th on that Sunday morning. I did want to raise it again in this video though, just because they are looking for volunteers. They need volunteers to help person the kit pickup on the Saturday before the race, and they also need people especially to supervise those intersections. I organized that race for years. The hardest part of getting volunteers is to supervise those intersections. They are the most important part of it though. If you can help, I've provided an email news in the newsletter. I believe it's hintonburg5k@gmail.com to let them know that you can help out. City Hall is getting very busy. There is the Emergency and Protective Services Committee that's coming up on June the 23rd. They have a relatively... Sorry, I'm just going to pause this video for a moment. It is hot out here. Welcome back. So there are a number of big committee meetings that are coming up at City Hall over the next couple of weeks. On June the 23rd, the Emergency Preparedness and Protective Services Committee is going to meet. That's a relatively workaday one with just largely some administrative matters of receiving the paramedics and the bylaw annual reports. There is a Community Services Committee meeting on June the 24th. The headline item is going to be, I think, the proposal to move the Centre Éducatif Pinocchio from Sussex to the new development at 1010 Somerset. That's a big news, I think, or a big piece of news, I think, for Hintonburg. That plant bath obviously is right on the edge of our ward. They are proposing to move that French language daycare, which is a city daycare, from Sussex Drive to 1010 Somerset. All the information is in the committee report that can be accessed via the link that I provided in the newsletter. City Council is a really packed meeting, but I don't think it's going to be an overly contentious one. We have the annual general meetings for Ottawa Hydro and the Ottawa Byward Market Holdings organizations. They'll have their annual general meetings, as well as receipt of the annual report from Ottawa Public Health. I think the biggest item that we'll be talking about is that waste management feasibility study. You heard at Environment Committee earlier last week that the committee has recommended we move ahead with an in-depth look at how to extend the life, or how to handle it when Trail Life landfill is full. City staff have suggested that we are going to take a look at 3 different paths forward, one of which is to do nothing and eventually start using private landfills for our waste. One of them is to build a new landfill, and one of them is to build an incinerator. That set of recommendations passed without a lot of controversy fairly easily through the committee process. I am going to express my opposition to building an incinerator in Ottawa and expending any further city taxpayer resources into the study of that, but nonetheless I expect, based on what we saw at committee, that those recommendations will move forward for deeper dive studies on the 3 different approaches. And then Councillor Johnson has a motion I think residents, community associations, stakeholder groups will all want to take a look at with respect to providing the public with better consultation tools. All of the City Council agenda is online through the link that I provided in the newsletter. The Public Works and Infrastructure Committee is going to meet on June the 26th. It's a big one. We're going to be taking a look at the second part of the Transportation Master Plan, which I go into greater depth in my newsletter, but it is at its meatiest the list of capital projects that are required to be built, largely from development charges, in order to support the patterns of growth that we anticipate in the official plan. There's a lot of chatter about that one, a lot of discussion. I do want to say that I think staff have done a very good job of crafting a list of capital projects that gets to a lot of compromises. Our official plan directs a lot of growth to greenfield areas. Those are going to need roads, they're going to need potentially road widenings in order to accommodate that growth. And there's also a lot of projects that are related to transit, public and active transportation. It's always a difficult task to try to get a balance of those. I think staff have largely achieved it. There's not a lot of changes for us here in Kitchissippi Ward. Our road network is already built out. We're not going to be building out roads. We're not going to be widening roads. Of interest, though, is that the Carling Avenue corridor, which had been slated in previous versions of the Transportation Master Plan for something like a tram or some sort of higher order transit, is now proposed eventually to become bus rapid transit with an interim condition of dedicated bus lanes. It's a great day to be on the motorcycle. The other piece is that the baseline corridor for bus rapid transit is like one of the highest prioritized things, which I think is absolutely appropriate. The Transportation Master Plan is ultimately about how we're going to spend development charge dollars. There's a lot of statutory constraints around how that is determined. I have more information in the newsletter, and of course a link to the actual Transportation Master Plan Part 2 in the newsletter as well. Also in the newsletter, the Finance and Corporate Services Committee is going to be meeting on June the 30th. It's a fairly meaty agenda of some property acquisitions, including for a parcel of land for an eventual municipal civic facility in the Barrhaven Town Centre, adjacent to what is presumed to be the eventual arrival of LRT there. There's a proposal to dispose of 172 O'Connor to an organization that would provide housing for women, and a proposal on the table to acquire a parcel of land adjacent to the newly realigned Green Bank that would eventually serve as an LRT. So a very meaty newsletter this week. I hope you are someplace cool and have a chance to read that. I am looking forward to a hot but beautiful week, and I want to say thank you very much for watching. Have a great week, Kitchissippi.